This episode of Adventures in Alchemy is brought to you by the Moon and Magic Planner, 13 Moons of 2020. Plan on magic for 2020. Magic just doesn't happen. You have to plan on it. And this planner has plenty of ideas and spaces for creating magic. It celebrates the moons instead of the months. It follows the cycles of nature. It has pages to share your word of the year, your intentions, an oracle reading for the year. It also has spaces for your incantations, full and new moon rituals, working with waxing and waning moon energy, planner pages to script out your best year, and weekly pages that include the oracle of the week, along with magical notes, spells, and recipes that you may be working with, or experiments, right? And also you can track all of your magical habits here because these habits really build up our own connection to magic in the world. And it's just brimming with magical energy for you to have the most magical 2020 yet. How many times did I say magical? Too many. But go to the show notes and check out the link, or just go to www.dailyalchemy.com and scroll down to about the middle of the page and you'll find a big button that'll take you right there where you can see the brand new gorgeous cover for 2020. Hi, I'm Michelle Martin Dobbins, the creator of DailyAlchemy.com and the Moon and Magic Planner. Welcome to another episode of Adventures in Alchemy, where we share tips, techniques, and true stories to support you in using magic, witchcraft, and alchemy to right wrongs, heal generational wounds, create synchronicity, and re-enchant your world. I charm this podcast episode to be of service, to allow divine ideas to come through, and to bring value to all who listen. Now, on with the show. So in today's episode, we're going to talk about hell loops. And that's not a word that I have created, but it's one that I've picked up from television shows. So I'm going to let you know how to know if you are in one, a hell loop, and how to escape. So let's just start with what is a hell loop. If you are an avid Lucifer watcher, as I am, and I don't watch much TV, but somehow I got sucked into this Lucifer show. I just find these concepts of like the devil changing and evolving and becoming more self-aware as just really fun. Right? If the devil can do it, so can we. So in this show, people, when they go to hell, they're not sent to hell. When they die, their own guilt is what sends them to hell. And when they're there, they experience this hell loop, which is like the same tragic events happening over and over, whether it was something that actually happened or it was an event where they murdered someone and they're just going through the steps and murdering that person over and over. Or like there was one lady who, she was a lawyer who protected not so nice people and got them off. And so then she would see those people that she got off and kept from going to prison coming in and shooting her family. So, none of us are in that level of hell loop, but yeah. Also, another TV show that has this same kind of concept is American Horror Story. And I don't watch all the seasons, only the seasons that have witches, because I like the witches. I don't like the other creepy stuff. Clowns and like hospitals, no. But anyway, in those ones also, when someone died, they would like keep on living this life that was horrible to them, and it wasn't always quite so loopy, but some of them were. Like one, the character becomes a housewife when she's like the head of the coven and like being married and being tied to, like, she was like living in a trailer park and cooking for her man, and and then one became a sales clerk in a large department store when she had been a famous singer. So that was kind of like their version of hell. And then there was one character who loved animals and she could bring animals back to life. So she kept having to dissect this frog over and over again. And she would bring it back to life, and then the teacher would force her to kill it again. So hell loops are not fun, right? They're kind of like, for us, when we're still alive and we're awake and we're in a hell loop, it's like we keep living the same misstep every day. And some, like some days, maybe not, but most days we're living this. So I noticed myself that I had this situation that had become a hell loop in my life. And I'm going to share with you 2 of my personal hell loops. One that I actually healed quite a long time ago, and one that I'm like in the process of healing, right? So I noticed that in some areas of my life, I was just creating the same experience day after day. So like you wake up, you get to the end of the day, and you're like, oh, dude, I did it again. So I just want to share with you, before I go into telling this stories more about hell loops, just a few quotes on why I believe we create hell loops and why, while we're alive, and some, examples of them. I'm going to give you some from my own life. So, I'm not putting anybody else under the bus, just my own self, but telling you some methods for escaping them if it comes to your awareness that you are in one, or you may already be aware that you're in one. Sometimes, like, that's the first step, right? In everything, awareness. Okay, so first I want to go to, yes, the old King James Version of the Bible, Luke 17, verses 20 and 21. And I'll just read those to you. And when he was demanded of the Pharisees, he being Jesus, I interlope that, when the kingdom of God should come, he answered them and said, the kingdom of God cometh not with observation. Neither shall they say, lo here or lo there, for behold, the kingdom of God is within you, right? And to me, that always reminds me that like heaven or hell is inside of us. It's our choice, how we're experiencing things, how we're perceiving things. Yes, some things are bad, but like our perspective does determine like how we deal with what is here in front of us. And I had thought, mistakenly, apparently, if somebody finds this, I had thought that he had actually said the kingdom of heaven and hell are within you and not just the kingdom of heaven. So as I was searching for that quote, I found another really good quote from another pretty cool man. I mean, I was sorry to say he's not JC level, but his initials are JC. So not Jesus the Christ, but Joseph Campbell. So the quote from Joseph Campbell is, all the gods, all the heavens, all the hells are within you. So like, yeah, that's a nice one. And if you're not familiar with Joseph Campbell and his work, he wrote The Power of Myth along with a lot of other books. The Power of Myth is the only one that I've read, and it's been years ago, but he's definitely Google worthy, definitely worth checking out. In fact, I want to share with you just a little bit more about what he said in front of that short quote, because he did a lot of work on myths, and he feels like myths are our way out of kind of the darkness and how we can change and shift our life. So I am in agreement. Like, myths are the stories that we tell, right? And those stories, whether they be our own personal myths or like the myths of our society, they do impact us. And the nice thing is that we can change our own personal myths. And over time, I know there have been studies, and I can't even think of who this was, but like the myths of society change as well. And sadly, I feel like in a way, myths are kind of not as like noticeable and important to us, like that, especially that oral tradition of myths and stuff, because we all have such wide beliefs and we're like fed all these other different venues for entertainment. And I think that kind of disconnects us a bit. So working on your hell loops can help you in all kinds of ways. So this is a little bit about what he had to say about myths and things being inside of us. Myths are metaphorical of spiritual potentiality in the human being, and the same powers that animate our life animate the life of the world. So it's kind of like as within, so without, like as above, so below. Like the myths that are out there in our society also are the same kind of things that animate us. All the gods, all the heavens, all the worlds are within us. They are magnified dreams, and dreams are manifestations in image form of the energies of the body in conflict with each other. That is what myth is. Myth is a manifestation in symbolic images, in metaphorical images of the energy of the organs of the body in conflict with each other. So yeah, there's a lot to unpack with that. And this is not a Joseph Smith. Oh my gosh, I'm on the Mormon track now. Joseph Campbell podcast. But thinking a little bit about the stories that you create. And honestly, to me, the reason that we get stuck in a hell loop is because we stop creating our own stories or looking at at the myths that are at work in our life and creating our own and focusing on those stories of the hero overcoming and the stories, just the stories of the reality that we want to create. And then we get stuck in like this loop of doing things that we don't want to do because we've disconnected and we don't even notice that we're doing them. I think that's what happens in the TV shows. So I just think it makes such a big difference because when we step into that, we realize that we're powerful, right? We are the hero on the hero's journey. And even if we're in a really sucky place, that's like alchemy. Like even if we're in the mud and the muck right now, even if we're in the distillation process, even if we're in the fermentation process, it doesn't mean that we're not on that journey. And like there will be time when there's not a whole lot of forward movement. But I still think like being aware of like, oh, maybe a hell loop is part of the process. And I'm okay with that to a certain level. But if I notice one, then that's my awareness that it's time to move on to the next step, right? Get out of the fermentation pit. So I do believe that if we are in a hell loop, we are ultimately responsible for that. Notice, though, that I did not say we are to blame for that, because there are a lot of things that happen in life that, this is why people think the law of attraction, they can't wrap their head around that, is because, your little babies are drawing in illnesses. No. That's not how it is. And like children and little babies, obviously, like we're responsible for them until they're of a certain age. But as an adult, and, this is an explicit podcast, so I'm sure everyone listening to it is an adult. We're not necessarily to blame for what happens to us. Like, things can happen that we have no control over, and I'm not one to stand and say, oh, you were vibrating low vibrational thoughts, so this happened. I mean, sometimes we can see that we created a bad reality. We ate a bunch of junk food, we ate a whole lot of it, and we got sick, whatever. But a lot of things we're not necessarily to blame for, but as an adult, we are responsible for making changes in how we react to what happens to us, and that's where our power lies, right? So I want to give you a few examples of kinds of hell loops that we can get stuck in. One, not following through on choices that we want to make, right? This is like the sin of omission, right? We want to eat healthy. We want to learn to play guitar or how to speak Portuguese, but we just don't make that daily choice to do it, right? And it has to be simple daily choices, simple daily routines, daily alchemy. Steps that we put, things that we put into our routine every day, that we practice these things every day, or we eat so many healthy foods every day. And sometimes we can go to bed and we can wake up in the night feeling bad because we didn't make the choices that we wanted to make, that we let ourselves down. Or maybe we have the same fight, the same argument, the same situation with a person, or even different people over and over, right? And hint here, understanding how that other person feels is huge. And also just like perspective shifts, which part of that is sometimes understanding other people's triggers, understanding a little bit about your triggers. And those can just really change sometimes communication issues that we have with people. Another type could be living in a place that you hate, working a job that you hate, those kinds of things. Not being in alignment with yourself. If you live in the city, but you're a country person, or vice versa, or you have a job that just doesn't suit you. So that can be a kind of hell loop for sure. Addictions of all kinds, alcohol, food, drugs, online shopping, that might trigger me. I like to buy stuff online. So let's face it, we get in routines and we tend to live the same day over and over. Groundhog Day, the movie, if you've ever seen that one, where the guy lives it over and over and he has to make different things. Oh my gosh, yeah, he was in a hell loop there, right? Things are not working out. And he realized he had to change in order for how the day changed to work out. And that is us too, right? Now, if we have a day that we're living over and over, that's a pretty good day, and things go pretty well, then, it's not such a bad thing. It's just when there are these hell loop components to it that we want to escape that it kind of sucks. But if you're in a good place and you're doing good things that you enjoy and life feels good, that's like where you want to go when you're like planning out how you want your days to be and how to add magic and alchemy to your day. Like, where can you add it that's going to change how you feel about something that you don't like and make it into something that you do like, or just add more things that you do like, right? So if you have a situation, though, that every day you're telling yourself it's going to be different, and then you commence to do the same behavior pattern over again, that's a freaking hell loop, right? Nobody wants that. So some of these are easier to shift than others, but I'm going to give you some tips that can get you past any hell loop with some tweaking. So I'm going to go ahead and give you your experiment now, should you choose to follow through. If you're aware of a hell loop that you want to escape, notice it and how it repeats. Like, first step is awareness. So if you don't have one that you're aware of, if you don't feel like you're as happy in your life as you want to be, maybe just think about that. Look, like, what are your normal days like? And is there something that's happening over and over again, or not happening over and over again, that you really want to shift and change? But, first part is kind of just awareness on it. And sometimes that's enough to really start shifting how you think about it. Second, this will be one of those experiments where I give you a metaphysical and a physical change to make. So metaphysical, I want you to meditate on how to be on being actually in the energy of the person who is in this new reality. So the version of you who is free from the hell loop, what does that look like? Is it just like if your hell loop is that you want to be a good guitar player and you don't practice guitar, you're going to see yourself playing guitar and being really happy and pleased that you've practiced and you've made all this progress and you're doing great. And you're the energy of the person who is a guitar player, right? Who is a fabulous guitar player. So then the next step, the third step, is doing the physical action, which is you just want to change one small action related to the loop and do that new action with intention each day. So each day you want to meditate on being in that energy, and you want to probably do that in the morning and step into that energy of being that person who has whatever you want instead of the hell loop, right? And then take one small action. So for that, it might be like keeping the guitar and the music out where you can get to it and sit down and play one song. And like, if you play more, great, but don't say I'm going to practice for an hour. Just add one small change. I'm going to practice one song a day. If you do more because it feels good, great. But I find that making these small tweaks, a lot of times we end up doing more. And that's why I teach people to take one core practice when they're starting a metaphysical practice and just commit to doing that. If you do other things, great. But the one that you're committing to is just one 5-minute thing. Because then, we tend to complicate things. And maybe it's just me. I'm a Virgo. I can make you a list of 20 things that I should do and then be upset if I only checked off 17 or 18 of them. So that's why I think committing to one, and then other things that you want to do are great, but, and one for a specific area, obviously. So this whole loop that we're trying to eradicate. And then track your results and give yourself grace. I have recently watched a movie and it hit home to me, and then a friend of mine that I shared it with mentioned it too, how it made such a difference for her. And so I'm going to tell you guys, even if you don't have this situation that some of us have in our life, which is having a family member who has addictions to drugs. And the movie is called Beautiful Boy. And if you haven't watched it, I recommend you watch it. It is pretty intense. It's really good. And there's a book. I haven't read the book. My daughter's read it. She really liked it. But one of the things in this book and the story was that relapse is part of recovery, right? That's why I'm saying give yourself grace, track your results. If you didn't do it today, it's okay, right? If you go to bed and you wake up at 2 a.m. and you're like, freaking hell loop got me again. It is part of the process of escaping. You're human. You don't flip a switch and automatically become perfect at doing anything you want to do. And for me, like knowing that for my relative who has drug addiction, that relapse is part of recovery has been really helpful. But it's also been really helpful for me as I'm trying to clear out this hell loop in my life. So for me, I noticed I had a tendency to get on an electronic device in the evenings after dinner and not have much connection with my family. And like I will tell you, like if you found a hell loop, you will start to come up with excuses why it's not you. Like for me, I was like, well, my whole family's on their electronic devices. They go to their room. So why shouldn't I? Well, no, that's not how it works, right? I mean, yeah, I can make that excuse and maybe it's true, but does it change the situation I'm in? No, it doesn't. So once I noticed it though, I would get upset about it but I kept doing it. And then I noticed we started eating dinner less together. And when we're there, like people were using devices. And then I always have a habit of going up to spend a few minutes with each of my kiddos before bed, just like go to each room, knock on the door. Hey, how's your day? What's going on? Is there anything I can help you with? Do you need anything from school? Please don't tell me in 2 days that you need a dozen cookie, all those things. Check in, communicate for practical reasons and just connection reasons. And I realized that I had started carrying my flippant iPhone or iPad into when I did this and not giving them my full attention. At first it was like, so I can make notes that they need cookies. And I'm like, come on, right? You can't go downstairs and like put that on the list. Yeah, I could. I definitely could. So the following steps are what I have chosen to take for my escape route. And that is just like meditating and visualizing family connections, meaningful evening activities. And then, I'm a rule breaker. I am a rule breaker, even though I'm a Virgo, Aries rising. So I actually made 2 changes. And one was that I would not allow myself to get on electronics after 7. And that I would sit in the living room after dinner because it was my habit to go to my bedroom. Everybody in our house went to their bedrooms. Like, dinner's over, you go to your room. So then when I would so I don't have electronics. I'm in my room. I'm in the living room. Everybody else is in their bedroom. So I have to start thinking what can I do? Well, I did sometimes bring paper books. I didn't turn on the TV, but if my kids would come out and be like, you want to watch TV? Or sometimes I would even say, hey, do you guys want to watch something? I'll watch something with you because I don't know how to turn on the TV in my living room. I know it's really sad, but I figure it's actually better for me. But trying to get, now that it's cool here, the fireplace going. We've had a few nights where we've played games. Some nights I sit there by myself and I want to think, well, why don't I just, because when I'm changing, it's going to take a process for my kids to know, here I am, I'm available for you, and for me to mandate that they come out and hang out with me doesn't feel good. It feels like I'm not allowing them to make their own choice, but it's a work in progress, right? And I have relapse times and I have some days when I'm just going on, I'm stressed and I just go to my room and chill out. And, it's a process, but I've definitely seen progress as far as, we played family games the other night, which has been the first time in such a long time that we used to do it a lot. So I'm healing that loop and taking those steps. And I'm seeing some progress with my family, but I'm not making it because this loop is about me, right? So, speaking of other people, sometimes they seem, right? Capital S, capital E, capital E, capital M. They seem to be an integral part of your hell loop, but really that's just an illusion, okay? That said, and it always bears repeating, if someone is being abusive to you or, make it your aim to get free as soon as possible. And I understand that that can be an addiction in and of itself. So don't beat yourself up if you relapse or that. But honestly, if someone's behavior is dangerous to you physically or emotionally, your escape from the hell loop includes escaping from them. Now, if their behavior is just annoying and not the behavior that you want, or even sometimes not nice, because we're all, I love, who is he? Stan Tatkin. He's a psychologist. He does attachment. I want to say attachment disorders, but he does like attachment personalities and how we attach to people. He's like, we're all assholes, right? We're all assholes. And he also says, if you're being abused, leave. But in general, people are annoying. I don't think he said assholes, actually. He said we're all annoying something or whatever. But we choose someone whose annoyances we can put up with, right? And so I did have a hell loop many years back. And at the time, I wasn't aware of this, but my husband is a type 1 on the Enneagram, which is like the perfectionist or the reformer. And if you're not familiar with Enneagram, I did a podcast on it. I'll try to link to it where I talked a little bit about it. And it has like links in the show notes to that one to get go on and find a free test to figure out what type you are. It's really enlightening because we did it with all our family members. And that has like actually changed how we perceive things, right? But because he is this type 1, he's always looking for what's wrong and how to fix it. And I am a peacemaker. So it's not always so fun for me. I'm a type 9 and I'm like, I want everybody to be happy, peaceful. So I thought for a long time it was my job to fix anything that he thought was wrong. Now I know better. It has changed things immensely. But, at the time he got into a habit, and it wasn't something, obviously, because we probably wouldn't have gotten married if it was his habit, but he got in this habit of like criticizing me, or it felt critical to me, like every day be like, you didn't do this, or you burnt the cookies, or whatever. I can't even remember some of the things, and I felt like it became a habit, and I think he was just literally probably trying to be helpful and tell me where I could improve, maybe. I don't know, but it didn't feel good to me, like starting out my day with my husband pointing out to me areas in which I could improve. So I used Jeanette Ma, and if you're not familiar with Jeanette Ma, she's the Good Vibe Coach, and I think it's just goodvibecoach.com maybe. Jeanette Ma, she's awesome, but she had an approach where she would like, if something she felt criticized, like she felt she was criticizing herself or somebody said something about her, she would say, I love that about me. So I decided that's what I was going to do. And so I started saying, that was at the change, that was my like physical change, was to say that to myself inside my head. And then eventually I started saying it to myself outside my head, which really confused my husband. Like I remember he specifically has a big thing about locking doors because someone broke in his house and tried to kidnap his sister when he was young. So I never had that experience. I grew up in a place where we never locked our doors as kids. So it wasn't something that I could resonate with as well. And he was like, you left the door open last night, the back door, somebody could have came in and slit our throats during the night. And I was like, you were just being overly dramatic. But I was like, I love that about me, that I'm so chill about that. And he was like, why would you love that about yourself? And I was like, I just do. And, the funny thing is, eventually, he, at least out loud anyway, at least to my face, he stopped criticizing me. And if he did start to say something, he would just be, you know what? I love that about you. And so it totally shifted that hell loop. And that's just not a thing that happens. I'm not saying my husband doesn't ever tell me that there are things that I should do better or what, but it's not a habit of like a daily thing for him to do. And this has been many, many years back. So that shifted it. And I can't promise that if you use the same thing, you'll get the same outcome. But what really matters, like even before he stopped criticizing me and started saying, you know what, I love that about you too. I shifted how I felt about it and decided that I was going to love anything that I considered a flaw or someone else considered a flaw. And that was what got me out of my hell loop. So it's something to play with, and every hell loop is different. So if you have problems sorting yours out, you can always go to the Be Magic Facebook group and post in there, and we'll help you out. I'm glad to help give you ideas on how to escape, or if it's something personal, private, you can go to dailyalchemy.com, and there is a link down there to either message me on social media. Well, there are social media links, and you can message me there, or you can send me an email.
So if you have a hell loop, here's to shifting that and having much more heavenly days ahead. And in the meantime, may we be good descendants on the path to becoming future exalted ancestors and living in the now. All right, I'll talk to you guys next week.